Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and I'm so excited to be back with John Hubbard. John Hubbard is a private investigator, but he was in the service for 25 years, 10 years as a detective, 8 years as a sergeant, and Deputy of the Year 5 times in Tampa Bay. He was in Pinellas County right by Fort DeSoto, so he has a lot of information about this area and being a detective, but he has not been on this case. I want to be clear, and he's now retired. But John, thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you.
We were talking about in the first video, which you can go check out. I'll put up in the top left there, why we don't have an autopsy report. And John gave some fascinating information. But you were alluding to your thoughts on Brian, and I wanted to get there next. From your experience as a detective, do you think Brian Laundrie did it? And do you think his parents are also guilty of aiding and abetting? What are your thoughts on this?
You know, my opinion is that there's no one else that could have done it but him. And there's no doubt from what we've seen in the public already that his parents have definitely, at the very least, helped Brian elude law enforcement.
So in a situation like this where the parents knew, right, that their future daughter-in-law was missing, and they come home and went camping during that time period, etc., are you as shocked as a lot of us that the Florida Northport police didn't keep closer eyes on Brian?
So not having, the specific information of whose job it was to watch him and to keep an eye, I'm pretty shocked, actually. No matter whether it was the Northport police, FBI, somebody had the responsibility, I would think, to keep him under 24-hour surveillance. I mean, I'm a private investigator now, and I can assure you that we would have had eyes on him, and it would have been, unless he could do a disappearing act, he's not going to elude us. So I'm very shocked that he slipped out from underneath their view.
Because it's besides even did he do it? I mean, this is almost a more interesting question, because as a detective who was working in Florida, if you had this case and there was a missing person report such as this, and he had the boyfriend and fiance had come back with the van and without the daughter of the parents that are asking, what is the protocol at that point? Josh Taylor. I was just say I think Josh, whatever, the PR guy for the Northport Police Department has been very vocal about, well, he's a free citizen. There's no crime here. Yada yada yada. Was that true? Is that fair?
Well, they can say that, and of course they didn't have a charge for him at the time. But under these circumstances, it was very clear what the outcome of this was going to be: that they were not going to find Gabby somewhere alive and well. I mean, he came home. He didn't even report it. He didn't tell her parents. He didn't give his own parents much information. He didn't call police. I mean, everything about this case stunk. And I don't think there's a cop in the land that thought for a second that Gabby was alive somewhere. It was just a matter of time before we found her body. I mean, the questions and the way that Brian Laundrie handled himself in this case, and the lack of the information that he produced, and his lack of cooperation with law enforcement, they knew what was up. So whether it was Northport Police or the FBI, whoever was responsible, there is no doubt that this gentleman, I just assumed that he was already under surveillance already. I just assumed that when I saw the case. And I was shocked to find out that he, in fact, had eluded them, and he's gone. He could be in Mexico, or who knows where. He could be in Costa Rica or Russia by now. Who knows?
But that's interesting because, look, and you don't know this case, like as you said, you don't know the facts. Maybe there's something we're missing. But from your experience, if she had come home missing, and the parents are saying it's been now 10 days, and her fiance is there, her car's there, they're not answering our phone calls, we don't know where they are. Again, this is, hindsight's 2020, but this was before this became such a national case. But even then, we have that instance right there. Are there enough resources and interest to tail the guy?
Oh, and that's what's lovely about it. Law enforcement has unlimited resources, regardless of what they tell you. I mean, here we're limited by how much somebody can afford to pay. But when it comes to this kind of a deal and that's crime, law enforcement has plenty of manpower. They could, and surveillance was just one of the minimum things that they should have had him. There's a lot of other things that I'm sure they are doing. I don't know how much of it I really want to share with your audience, because hopefully the FBI is still taking some measures to help track him down.
Yeah, just to be clear, and I appreciate it about John because John, John, your quote was, "I believe in frankness over flattery," and we were speaking a little bit off the record, and he was like, "Look, I just don't want to say some of these things about what could help Brian, right?" And I appreciate that because there's a lot of us out there speculating on, well, how do you get the burner phone? I mean, we're talking about the other day, but we got to be careful because there are methods that he could be employing to be evading capture, correct? And that the parents
Of course he is,
and the silence also.
Yeah, the guy is very brilliant. Even though he's 23, I would not downplay that a bit. I mean, we have geniuses that are 13 years old. So I mean, so they can't just downplay and say, well, he's only 23 years old. He's a kid. Well, that has already evaded law enforcement and the whole FBI of the United States. So he's not too dumb, And I'm sure his parents have had a hand in that as well. But you see a lot of things, a lot of the things that the cops are doing. Unfortunately. They're for the public's eye as well. They've got to make it look like they're doing a fair job and that they're not overlooking anything, like checking the Everglades swamp for God knows how long. I mean, again, law enforcement has flare technology where they can see heat, from the sky in a helicopter. And think about it, even if he is a woodsman, and I consider myself one, I'm not going to live or even try to live in the swamp.
Correct.
With the alligators and the snakes. You're not going to stay in there for very long. You might stay and hide under there while the dogs are sniffing by just to get by for a day or two till you can move locations.
Right.
But he never even started in the swamp, in my opinion. I mean, they came up to Fort DeSoto Park up here in Pinellas County, which is a big isolated way up. And again, these are just my opinions. But if I'm going to come there truly, I don't know that Brian himself was there, but if I was, it would be really to get on another boat and get out of here.
Right.
Because it's way down there. It's an island, barrier island off by Tierra Verde and the Skyway Bridge. And you can get on a boat and go wherever you want. Go back to Cuba. You can go over to Mexico. You can go wherever. Go up to Texas, Louisiana.
How easy though to get those boats without being tracked? I mean, is that because we've been having that theory too? And I know Dog the Bounty Hunters are out there, but is that something easy that he could have, because they were at that campsite at DeSoto? Do you think that could have been? Do you think that could have been part of their plan to go there, make a plan, and then have someone catch their boat? I mean, wouldn't that person talk?
Very easy. So they could and they should. So I mean, I have a captain's license as well. So and I've driven all over the place. It's so easy to get in. He could go from one boat to another boat and transfer. You can get in a fast boat. You can take a sailboat. You can take a trawler. You can get on a fishing boat that's always out there. And then they transfer from. Listen, they've been dealing drugs out of our ports for years and years. It's just as easy to transport people as well. So yeah, he could, but the more people that know what you're doing and your escape, the more of a chance that somebody is going to not like that idea and find out, and that will be the tip that will ultimately catch him if he is that foolish.
Do you think would he still? So you're pretty, as we've answered. You think he did it? It's seemingly, and then the parents clearly have. You think they're aware? Do you think they're still helping him in a way? Wouldn't they be tracked at this point, like their phones, etc.?
At this point, as we sit here today in October of 2021. I don't think the parents can do anything more because now they know now the gig is up. The FBI has been in their house. They know they've already collected all their electronic devices, I'm certain, and did forensic imaging of everything. And so as we sit here today, I'm certain that the FBI knows what the parents knew and when they knew it. And so they knew what their involvement is. And I do believe that in due time, the parents are going to get, their bracelets as well. There's no doubt in my mind that they're not going to be able to get around this. But right now, time is on the side of law enforcement as far as making an arrest, because once the arrest is made, which I guess we'll get into that at another venue, but when that starts the time clock, for speedy trial. So they don't want to do that before they have to. But right now, talking about did the Laundries do it? There's no doubt in my mind that Brian Laundrie is responsible for her death. And there's no doubt in my mind that the parents assisted Brian in escaping arrest by the police.
How would you have grilled the parents? Like, is there a tactics? I guess we can't be getting careful on revealing, because I'm sure those Landries are watching a lot of this, I would think. But is there? Do you think the FBI or the police are currently in a mental game of trying to get them to unhinge?
The problem now is once they're represented by counsel, it's illegal to go for law enforcement to re-engage with the Landry. So there is no more dialogue. It's a one-way. It's whatever the Landry.
But even them showing up,
want to feed them.
I was gonna say, but showing up with, like, the other day, yesterday with the FBI and doing this, these are subtle little ways that they're allowed to get away with sort of bothering them. Correct?
Well, I don't know that there's so much as bothering them. I don't think that they're looking to do that at this point, especially with all the media's eyes on them. But they came to retrieve what appears to be some more evidence that will help law enforcement. If they said that they got some more clothing that would have Brian's smell on it, of course they're going to give that to the blood sniffing hounds.
They seem to have DNA kits too. They like DNA kits. There was a cup. A lot of people are assuming that would have been a DNA kit.
It could be, yes. DNA. They can get touch DNA anymore. They can just swab things where you touch the countertop. So DNA is so far advanced where it was, 5, 10, 20 years ago. It's just unheard of.
Right. Well, we got lots more to talk about with John. I'm very grateful for him being here. So it's a 4-part series we're doing with him. Guys, go support him. You can learn more about him, or if you need to hire a private investigator here in Florida, you can go to Hubbard Investigations to call him. So grateful to have him here. We're going to continue with the next question of when will they arrest and why didn't they charge with murder? That's going to be part 3 of this series. If you want to stay tuned, make sure you've hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for all alerts. And smash that like button and leave a comment. We try to keep it honest here. We're bringing in more experts, so we don't just keep going off the rails with the theories. And I'm so grateful for John to be here, and we'll be back with him more in just a second.